Starfleet Universe on Call. And tonight we have, of course, me, Russ, and Dave are in the chat room. And of course, we're always waiting for you to show up so you can join us. Now, tonight, what we're hoping to do is there's a couple topics that I have assigned for tonight. Hopefully I can get to them. Got sidetracked here a little earlier this evening because I've had some issues with Warlord that I was trying to correct, and I'm hoping that won't affect things too greatly. I figured we can do. There's only 23 ships this month, so let me just go through those ships real quick. And I said it's going to be a really quick mini review. That's what we're going to start off with this evening. According to Jean Sexton, she posted said there was released a total of 23 new items on Shapeways. Just a reminder that the grandfathered prices for ships released prior to October 22nd of 2018 will end on January 31st of this month. January 31st of this month. The Federation gains a heavy cruiser, both in the regular and the Fed Classic and the smooth body. Klingons got their matching C8VB heavy carrier and also C8VK heavy carrier with the Aztec on the wings. The Romulans got the KRT fleet tug with the 2 Klingon pods. Tholians gain a Neo-Tholian heavy destroyer. Also to get an Empire Pacific base. Also, the Gorn's got a heavy battle cruiser, which is always awesome. It's kind of an awesome ship. And the Orions got their Slaver freighter, which, to be honest, I think that's of the whole lot of them. I think I like that one the best. Let me just go over to this one. Okay. Now, was that even mentioned? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention it, but it was listed by Gene, which was, of course, the Romulan base station here, which is I like the base station. This is actually of the lot this month. I think this is probably my favorite, which is the Slaver freighter, which, if you've ever seen the SSD, the design is perfect. It matches the SSD, and also, like the kind of swept wing kind of thing. They're up instead of being down. I think that makes it cool. And then some, I'm not exactly sure what these are, but they definitely give a better feel. I think it would look bad if this was just a flat area. It almost call this Aztecing, but I don't think it's quite Aztecing. It's probably where they mount the weapons, for the option mounts. That's probably what those are. They got this one. It's just another Neo-Tholian. It's nothing really, to me, it's nothing really that special. Of the other Neo-Tholians, it pretty much looks similar to the previous Neo-Tholians. It's good, consistent. Of course, here's always the weird thing. Okay, I will bring up this one. The Romulan KRT fleet tug, which I like the design. It looks good. But I'm sure that you realize basically the Klingon KRT. Sorry, because Klingon fleet tug. I forgot what it is right off the top of my head, and I'm sure that currently I have Russ and Dave screaming at me, going, "It's this, Paul. It's this. You know nothing." Okay. Russ is saying that the sound is full in YouTube and talk show is a little flat. That wouldn't surprise me. Oh, okay. So things are not exactly the best recording, but we will move forward. Um, but I like the pods underneath the Klingon designed ship, but always the question is when it comes to Romulan versus the Romulan Klingon ships, the KR ships versus the Klingon ships. There isn't not that big of a difference. The only thing I would think that probably got changed was probably right here, which is where the disruptors are supposed to be mounted, or the plasma tubes would be mounted. So that should be a little different. Obviously, you won't notice the difference unless you actually look up close. So if you were in dire straits and you really don't want to, you already had you bought like two Klingons, you could just say, "Oh, this one's the Romulan, just paint it differently when it comes to the colors," and you'd be good. Um, let me look at this for a moment. Oh, yeah, the Klingon Amiskell base station, which to me is kind of weird because what if I'm sure if we look at this, basically it looks like you've got the center hull and then they put three booms attached to the base station. I'm not saying that this would not be what the Klingons would have done. It just looks like someone tried to create a ship out of a base station, you know? Um, but again, as I said, that could be just the way the Klingons said it. This is actually kind of neat. I have to agree that though again, I'm sure you all would have to agree that these look like little Tholian PCs that are attached. So it's a little different because it looks like they are these thin slices. It's like a slice of a Tholian PC, but it actually looks kind of cool. I like the triangular shape of the pieces. And of course, you got the Klingons, the the C8s. The Romulan is the Romulan. I mean, sorry, the Gorn is the Gorn, the heavy battle cruiser. Nothing shocking. It's consistent with the rest of with the models. You know. Okay, and last and certainly not least, which is the heavy carrier. Which actually that looks I kind of like that. Like that. The here you got a little cutout for where the flight decks are. Basically, the flight deck for the Federation is now the one thing I do not know because this indicates. Dun, dun, dun. This, I think. Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, because these look like doors. So I don't know if the Federation has those are actually shuttle doors, so they could actually launch a whole squadron at one time. Could that be six on this side, six on the other side? You got a whole squadron. You got a squadron of 12. Okay. I want to win the lottery and build my own custom sailing ship and sail the Klingon tug. Uh, that's kind of neat. Well, I'm hoping that people. I'm hoping the stream survives because according to Dave, the stream is offline, and well, not much I can do about it at this moment in time. Hopefully, yeah. Okay, go back to here. I think that is pretty much it for the miniatures for this month. I just wanted to do a quick run through of what was new. Some quick comments about it because of um, I I'm not sure how I've not got any response back, though. Obviously, the patient zero said, "Oh, this guy is really boring," because he doesn't want to see that. He wants to see more action. He wants to see actually live um, SFB game being played is what he wants. But that's not what this channel's for. This channel is for showing the stream of the podcast. That's all it's meant to do. So anything else would be a distraction from it. Now, obviously, I still want to do the recordings of the YouTube, and actually, I've got one for my game, which I still haven't yet to finish playing because of the Gatwick situation and also my back, which I hurt last week. I'm better now. That's the reason why we're even having the podcast. So, okay, with that, I'm going to stop and then we're going to switch it over to the chat room. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Russ, for making sure that they verify that I still have audio and video. Hopefully, they're getting a good enough recording. If not, I might have to start thinking about using the OBS Studio, which is kind of cool. That's one thing that was weird. I sort of mentioned on Floss Weekly. I was listening to it this past week, actually yesterday, and it was to mention, with OpenCast, they can stream videos, but you say, there's no real good open source solution. But I could have sworn that I think it's OBS or OBS Studio, or I think it's OB Studio. But anyway, that actually does stream and it records, and it does actually a pretty good job. It doesn't do a good job of management. It does good effects and that kind of thing. But it definitely will stream to Twitch. OBS. Thanks, Russ. It's OBS Studio. But anyway, yes, but I looked at it and it looks like I can actually stream to YouTube. I'm not exactly sure how you would do that. I mean, if there's anything special you have to do with YouTube to have it so it's actually verified when it comes to the username and password and all that kind of thing, to make sure that the app can actually use it, can connect up to it. I'm assuming that it's using the YouTube, the Google APIs that they have for YouTube, because I know there's YouTube APIs. I currently actually don't know what YouTube APIs are available. I was looking at that earlier, like a couple of years, quite a few years ago, because I was thinking about trying to create an audio player, basically, of YouTube, because we had the whole issue with YouTube being used for people listening to music, which was weird, but it worked. Okay, so that's it for the mini review for this week. That's fine. Okay, I apologize. My loopback just screamed that I'm. Oh, crap. This should be interesting. Okay. This should be definitely interesting. Okay. This. Good. Thank you, Dave, for not visualizing that. Okay. Okay, YouTube's good. And I got kicked off the call. Okay. Okay. I think I'm back now. My internet connection is flaky as all get out. Oh, this is going to be interesting. How about those baseball teams? Yeah, interesting baseball teams. Okay. This is going to suck. Okay. Okay. So, one thing I wanted to actually discuss actually was something that I just read. I might have discussed it before. I don't remember if I did or not. It's been a while, and definitely the post that Gary Carney did is over 2 years old. It's from August of 2016, and he was mentioning there was a bit of discussion recently about in this 2016, but talk show recordings regarding Carnivans and the Sargasso storm zone. Actually, I read this post. I might have read, for all I know, it might have been read before. I might have talked about it before, but at this moment in time, I don't remember. So I'm gonna discuss this because I think this post is kind of interesting. In that, Gary talks about on the Sargasso octant, and when it comes to the Sargasso octant, that and he was just mentioning how the Carnivans, he said, the Carnivans may offer a useful and entry point for potential Sargasso project. And the whole idea here is that they also allow for, let me just finish reading this. They may also allow for a more limited approach to be taken. In theory, one would not need to fill in all of the blanks in terms of providing a full hex map for the entire octant, at least not right away. Rather, Yuan could start by showing the Carnivan's own enclave, the storm hexes surrounding it, and the first cluster of, say, 3 to 4 neighboring enclaves. For the first, say, 50 to 60 years or so, Even the Carnivans themselves may be too busy to fend off their near neighbors to gain any sort of reliable data on the rest of the octant. So, yeah, actually, when it comes to doing hex map, perhaps one option could be to do 3 rather than 2 tiers of hexes. Tier 1 would be the permanent hexes. Tier 2 would be the hexes that would randomly ebb and flow in terms of whether or not they would be consumed by the storms in a given season. And the tier 3 would be always part of the storm region. Which I kind of like, though. One thing Terry O'Carroll pointed out, which was when storm died down. And so he said that he didn't think the entire hex would be storm free. Probably just around the star systems is safe for travel, but no interstellar travel. Just interplanetary travel would be. So, okay. So, yeah, I I would like to. I would like to see it too, because I think fleshing out the Sargasso would be a great thing. I'm going to get back to his post. And it's mentioned how the Andromeds might have been able to take over a single enclave, basically close to the galactic rim, but they might find themselves trapped when the storms hit. Because they might have made it into one of the enclaves, but then a storm hits, and all of a sudden they're cut off from RTN links. Now, the only question I have about RTN, which is how distant do they have the RTN bases have to be, or how close do they have to be? But more to the point, how close do they have to be to make it viable? So meaning that if the enclaves are close enough so you can have an RTN node on the network in each enclave, yes, you probably could not travel from enclave to enclave while the storms were going on, but you could actually, um, you know, use the RTN when the storms were settled down. Now, again, as I said, I don't know how close the nodes have to be. In theory, you can say, well, the Andromedans would find, basically would find the RTN network completely disrupted by the storm, and any bases kind of outside the safe zones would find themselves destroyed because of the storm would just wreck the ships or wreck the bases that they had set up. So, and Gary was pointing out that they might have a local beachhead would be more or less obligated to make do with, say, constructing a battle station or two, and plan to perhaps target one new enclave at a time between each storm session. And I would agree with that. It's possible also that the Andromedans went, this is not worth the trouble. And the thing is, and I can understand that because of the way that the Andromeda technology works, in that small number of ships, but they were highly, highly mobile. And that's why they could flip it from here to there and here to there, and they would be completely fine. And they would look like they were a much larger fleet because of the RTN network. That's what really allowed them to do that. But he's also pointing out that this would mean that if the Carnivans were to settle into an enclave closer to the rimward edge of the storm zone, by which I mean the zone which encircled the radiation zone on the Milky Way, they might actually see it in Andromedan ships for quite some time, if ever. Which also might mean might make it interesting depending on whether any survey ships from the Alpha Octant or the Zircalian Tyranny were to show up at some point, which is always the question for us when it comes to Sargasso Octant. It's because of that is basically where the Zircalians live. And one thing we don't know about, we do not know that much about the Zircalians, in that when it comes to them, that they will. We don't know that much about it. We don't know. I'm assuming the Zircalians cannot have no way of traveling in the Sargasso storm zone, while the storm is active, like everybody else. But of course, they might have some special technology that actually jump from enclave to enclave. For all we know, they were able to form like wormholes kind of things. They would set up these wormhole gates on each enclave that they had control over, so they could actually travel between those enclaves while the storms were still active. We don't know. We have to. I've said something that ADB has to define in that case. So I think the Sargasso storm zone is interesting, and I like Gary's idea of basically, even I feel like one thing that Gary is pointing out is that one thing you could do, instead of defining those Zircalians and all that involves, even though I think a lot of people are quite excited about the Zircalians. And of course, with those Zircalians, the whole idea of the second generation X ships. In theory, what I think Gary is pointing out is that you could actually develop the different enclaves. That would be interesting. The Rin conquer the Sargasso. Oh, understood, David. You want the Zircalians too. I think I said most people do want the Zircalians, because I think it'd be interesting. The tough part about the Zircalians, I think, is that here I think here is the difficulty about the Zircalians and the Sargasso and all that kind of thing, and making sure it's all consistent. And that is, we want the Zircalians, but also the thing is with the Zircalians, when the second generation X ships are developed, they have to be this middle ground. They have to be able to fight the Zircalians, but also they have to be kind of compatible with the general warships, because I know that's one thing that ADB said they wanted to do, which was have some way of having the second generation X ships be able to be used with the general warships. So that, whether it would require some adjustments, or I'm not sure adjustments is correct. Well, when you have the combined ships, the big question obviously is, how do we do the second generation X ships, and then from there we could actually create the Zircalians at that point, in my mind, because of then you can actually have something that balances off that second generation X ships. And then of course you have the enclaves, which my assumption at this point would be that the individual empire, quote unquote, empires, races, whatever, that are in those enclaves in the Sargasso storm zone, that they're weaker. When it comes, but a lot of them, or most of them, are part of the Zircalian tyranny. And I would think that the Zircalians would allow them to have weaker ships, but be able to protect themselves from you know. Rest of this mentioned that the rumor has it that the Space Bunnies moved into New Jersey Hayes Nebula and found radiation levels intolerable. I like that. But so I think that would actually work out quite well. So, okay, moving on to the next topic. The next topic I wanted to discuss actually was past and future. At the moment, I don't think ADB has actually pointed out what their plans are for this upcoming year yet. So, unfortunately, I won't be able to talk about the future because I checked and I didn't see anything that ADB has put on the schedule, not put on a tentative schedule. Because invariably, I know ADB likes to put out a tentative schedule. This is what we'd like to do for the upcoming year. Obviously, this past year was a nightmare when it comes to real life issues with Steve and Leanna, Gene Sexton. The only person that seemed to stay relatively healthy was Steve Petrick. No, I don't, Dave. I don't say that there's no future for SFP. There's no future. ADB hasn't outlined any future products for SFP at this point in time. I'm sure that they have a plan, or okay, they might not have a plan today, but I'm sure they will create a plan for this upcoming year, what they want to accomplish. I know that they're still working. One thing that they definitely planned on doing this year, I can put money. You can put money on this one, which is they're gonna publish the Gorn Master Starship book because they've been working on that Master Starship book for the past 3 months or longer, and part of that basically has part of the delay has been due to Steve Cole, basically being out of commission for the most part, whether it's his health or Leanna's health. It makes it a little difficult to get things done. And Dave, I agree. I would like to see Russ get published. I think that would be awesome. And I can't wait to see what Russ sends me when it comes to the videos. And I have to figure out how I'm going to integrate that. And for everyone out there, we will look forward to that. And so, of course, in this past year, we had multiple Master Starship books pop into being. Okay, right. We had the Zinti Master Starship book was released. Of course, this year actually overall there weren't that many products per se, because I think we all will agree that this year was the year of the minis. ADB has been releasing anywhere from 20 to 50 different miniatures each month. Obviously, they couldn't keep up, doing a 50 a month, which is just it's insane. But they've caught up quite nicely for a lot to cover most of the pieces that are needed. Obviously, the one great thing that happened with with Shapeways and all the minis that were released this year was, of course, the Omega Sector. Getting all those different Omega Sector empires added, and so now previously something that could never have been done before, which is having minis for the Omega Sector are now a reality. And that's because the whole idea of 3D print on demand, miniatures printed on demand, And I know that we have talked about one thing which we would like to see done, which is uh, basically minis for like Prime Directive. For actual character pieces, a Gorn or a human or here's always the tough part. In my mind, there aren't that many races that could be actually shown. Obviously, there are certain races that we know exist. One thing I was just thinking about is the Klingon Empire. There, if I recall correctly, from one of the front covers of the captain's log was there is a kind of ape like race that is one of the Klingon races. That's a race that's part of the Klingon Empire. Obviously they're not not like the Klingons themselves are running things, but they are Marines. So you can have that one. The whole part about humans versus Romulans versus Vulcans versus um, Romulans, Vulcans, Klingons. For the most part, the miniatures are going to be pretty much the same. The only question could be is ears when it comes to the Romulans and the Vulcans. Um, oh, thanks, David. Just mentioning that the Klingons GURPS covered all of the subject races of the Klingons, which means I probably should pick up a copy because I really like to know about the different races that are part of the Klingon Empire. But yeah, you can. That's the one thing which which always brings up another question, which is how many of the races do you actually show when it comes to the subject races too? Because for most people, if you think of the Federation, you don't see any. You don't think of any of the member races of the Federation. You think of the humans or the Vulcans because that's what we knew from the Star Trek series. And of course it's got some other ones, the Orion slave girls and other ones which are basically they're humanoids. They're not that distant from being humans versus like the Lyrans or the Zintis, which are basically cat, cat humanoid creatures, and that could be done. Now, I've said the only way you can tell the difference between a Lyran and a Zinti, it would be probably, if someone decided to paint like a tunic that they were wearing so that you could actually identify the difference between the two. And what was it? I read back in the day about that if you actually mentioned to the Lyran and the Zinni that they probably came from the same base humanoid, cat humanoid race, you have a pretty big argument from that. It's like, oh, we're so much different than that, But I think every one of us would agree that they're pretty much the same, just different perspectives on the universe, different sides of the same coin, kind of thing. But having the Gorns are easy enough to do. The lizard creatures. The question would be, in my mind, when it comes to the lizard creatures, how would you show them? Would you show them like lizard men? Or would you show them more along the lines of the traditional Star Trek Gorn? Which is humanoid, doesn't have a tail, has this big head, that kind of thing. And of course, when it comes to the Gorns, they had their different uh, I forgot. I'm not sure if the coloration of the Gorns actually were different based on which kind of Gorn you were, whether you were gold or silver or green Gorn. I forget, but I know there are different Gorns. But I remember that the classic Gorns when it comes to Star Trek didn't have a tail. They weren't lizard men. Where the whole idea of lizard men is it's more along the lines of Spider-Man, and I forget that the lizard creature that scientist turned into. Oh, gray, brown, and green. Okay, thanks, Ross. When it comes to the Gorns, but the question would be, okay, how would how represented? Would they be more quote unquote modern, with have a tail and all that kind of thing? And I personally would hope to avoid something like that. Maybe something more like possibly looks like ones with a tail but without the tail. You know, so I think that'd be kind of interesting to see. I know obviously the one thing that ADB will be putting out this year will be capsule number 50, 53. At least I hope they do. Because if not, we're in trouble. Um, because of I'm just trying to look up here and boom. And see if I list out when it was created. Dun, dun, dun. No, oh, there it is. So Capsule 52 has been on the site since March of 2017. So it's been over a year and a half, coming up on 2 years. Obviously, the production of Captain Slugs has slowed down greatly since the beginning, where we actually had it twice a year, then now once a year, and now it looks like once every 2 years. I'm hoping that Captain Slug number 53 gets out the door this this year. If it doesn't, I think we're in real trouble, because if nothing else, a Captain Slug is a product that ADB can produce and put out there that people will buy, and doesn't require a lot of design requirements. Obviously, the biggest thing there when it comes to the Captain's Log is going to be the stories and articles and that kind of thing. And I'll be writing up another article, which, given 2 years, there's been a lot of things that have happened in 2 years when it comes to Starfleet Warlord. That's happened with SFB Online. That's happened with things all around the online community. So I'm not sure where we are in the Call to Arms Starfleet book 2.0, because I know that was one thing that they were working on. It's been a while. Let me just see if I can. Okay. Wow. Okay, book 2. Last update for that was okay, the last update on book 2 was actually November of this past year, so that's not bad. Yeah, last I heard, currently the book 2 was originally planned for June, but since they still haven't got out. Yeah, Steve Cole is mentioning post in August, was working on the final draft when he got sick, so he couldn't work at all on it. Yeah, it should be interesting to see how book 2 comes out, because hopefully it will come out this year. And let me see what they have scheduled for book 3. Book 3. Okay. Yeah. Steve Cole's. Now, this is back in 2015 when they laid out what's going to be in book 3, which obviously it could change. They said, book 3, we are not opening discussions on this project until book 2 is finished, but we need to make sure that we have a plan and don't paint ourselves into a corner. And obviously, that thread is currently not open because they're not talking about it. So it should be interesting to see how many books they can get through. Hopefully, they can get through book 2, release Captain's Log number 53 this year. What I would really love is an updated GURPS Prime directive that I know Jean's been working on and off on. I think that'd be fantastic if she could get that done. That'd be, to me, that's 2 new products and 1 update product. You know, the kind of magazine for ADB, and I think that would be good. You know, obviously they want to keep the miniatures train going. Though my understanding is that they're not making that much money off of miniatures because of Shapeways takes a cut. You know, obviously they make it and then they take a little bit of the profit in addition, you know, for how much it costs them, because obviously they have to make a profit. ADB gets a cut, but before ADB gets a cut, the sculptors get their cut, which is a little bit, and it's not, might be, I think Steve Cole said it's probably enough to go out for a nice dinner, you know. So it's not a whole lot of money. You can't live off the earnings off being a sculpture for the miniatures. Oh, jeez. Next week's topic: Peruvian Doomsday Revenge Weapon. Honey has shrunk the Gorn's torpedo. The Gorn's tiny with Cockney accent, always trying to sell insurance. That's a good one, Russ. That's a good one. I like that. Well, I think with that, we're just going to wrap it up for this evening. I've had a wonderful time discussing about the Sargasso, you know, and I know it's an old in theory it's like an old topic. Of course, I'm not sure if I remember actually discussing it before, at least that much. But I've really enjoyed the post that I read from Gary. And then there, of course, was the quick review of minis, and I try to make it as quick as possible so people aren't bored. And then, of course, finally, discuss about some of the things that have been pushed out this past year. As I said, most of those are the miniatures, and some things that we look forward to seeing in the upcoming year. I know ADB has not put up their schedule. I'm not sure where their health is when it comes to both Steve and Leanna, because I'm pretty sure Steve's supposed to have surgery either late January or February. I forget which, but hopefully that he will come through that quickly and recover quickly so that we can continue on, you know, brave new world of new ADB products coming out the door. And with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.